Welcome to our Afluencer podcast. We've got an episode for our mom influencers, parent influencers, I guess fellow parents like myself looking for ways to better educate our children. We've got Paul Bennett here with us. He's the founder of Cicero Learning, a company that helps families hire private teachers so that their children, students, our children can get more of that one-on-one type education that we're all looking for. So we'll talk about some influencer opportunities in a moment. First, we want to bring Paul on and welcome Paul, and was wondering if you could start us off telling us a little bit about yourself and your journey before you started Cicero Learning.
Sure. Thanks, Brett. I'm happy to be here. And again, sorry about the light. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've founded 3 different companies with my life and business partner, Lonnie, 2 travel businesses, and then this education business, which really came out of our life living on the road or on the water. So I live on a sailboat, and about 11 years ago, my wife and I set off on a round the world journey with our 3 daughters, who were between the ages of 5 and 10 at the time. And we raised them on a sailboat. We sailed all the way around the planet. And in those 11 years, we raised them through middle school, through high school. My 2 oldest daughters are off at college now. And we tried everything as homeschoolers or world schoolers. And then we tried hiring private teachers to design courses and then lead those courses one-to-one with our daughters. And it was a complete life-changing experience. And so Cicero was founded out of that.
Yeah, so firsthand knowledge then and experience. Do you have either from your experience or I guess studies or information that you have in terms of how much faster do children learn when they're coached one-on-one versus being divided into groups or the classical classroom?
Yeah, there are 2 studies. One, a classical study that was done in the 80s by an educational psychologist at the University of Chicago named Benjamin Bloom, kind of famous. He studied kids in a traditional classroom, and then he took those kids out for one-to-one instruction. And he demonstrated that kids who learn one-to-one their educational results are 2 standard deviations above the norm. So wow. If that kid was getting a C in that classroom, they're getting an A when they are taught one-to-one. Some more recent work is at Stanford University. This is very recent, just this past year. They were studying tutoring. So tutoring is a little bit different than what we do. You know, that's where a kid is in normal school and then they meet with a tutor who's normally like a college-aged kid who's earning a little extra on the side to get some support in subjects they're studying in school. And the results there were not quite as dramatic as what Bloom observed when he was studying one-to-one teaching, where basically the classroom gets dissolved down to just one student, but still pretty significant. Like the instruction was about 2.1 times greater. So, kids were like 1 year ahead when they're getting tutoring support. Whereas in our model, when they're getting taught one-to-one, they end up 2 years ahead, actually.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So kind of a progression then in terms of how far you are ahead, where if you're doing the classroom plus tutoring, that's some one-on-one, but you're still in the class during the day versus all one-on-one. And I assume, I don't know if that's addressed in the study, but maybe some of it is that, and I kind of can relate to this from our own COVID days of trying to pile the school through Zoom for that period of time, right? Is that you only get a certain amount of time in which you can teach the student effectively. And then it's almost like working out, I guess, where you've got that sweet spot and then there's diminishing returns after a certain period of time. So do you find that if you can use sort of that fresh mind, the fresh brain and teach it and then use that one-on-one time, that's really the way to go versus, having them sit in the classroom and kind of teacher maybe drones on and then they're using up their brain power, their attention span that way?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to the focus and attention that a teacher can put into a student. So when it's one-to-one, there's no place to hide, and it's just a rapport between student and teacher. And in a couple of sessions that builds. Over a month, it really builds. Over a year, it's incredible. So, and the Stanford study really showed that, not with teachers, but with these tutors, college kids. Basically, if they kept the same college tutor coming in and working with the kids week in, week out, they built a rapport, and those tutoring sessions were more successful than the others. So if you can imagine now, take the college kid, get rid of them, bring in a teacher with 20 years of experience, take away the classroom, and just have them teach one-to-one for a year. The results are staggering. I mean, we just have nothing like it in our society today. So it's pretty game-changing.
Yeah, interesting. And then with your own experience and your own company, then with Cicero, are we talking one-on-one instruction, same teacher all day going through the subjects, or are you bringing in a new teacher, new subject matter expert, I guess, if you will, for a different subject? So math is maybe going to one teacher where sciences might be another.
Yeah, I mean, once you get to sort of sixth grade and beyond, so middle school, high school, teachers specialize. So, a great math teacher is not necessarily a great English language arts teacher. And that's certainly true once you get to be sort of 9th, 10th, 11th grade. So our model is an a la carte model. You come in and we design a course for you. So if you want to do all school with us, you're doing 5 courses, and we're designing each individual course. We're getting a specific teacher for that course, and then it's personally built for the student.
Interesting. So I see you do the curriculum design as well. And I'm curious about that because my wife actually just manned the farmers market booth for our school this week in a small school. And they had lots of homeschool parents came up and asked about that question, curriculum, right? Do you provide curriculum? So that's something that Cicero provides to these parents that are, sort of thumbing the farmers market looking for these curriculums.
We do, but it's a little bit surprising because when you say curriculum, a lot of times people mean that there's something that's highly structured, and homeschoolers usually think, oh, I buy this curriculum off the shelf and then I teach this curriculum. Mm-hmm. That's not what we do. Every single course is bespoke and personalized to the student. So for example, the student will come in, let's say they're an 8th grader and they want to study math. And the first question we have of the parents is, okay, well, are you a homeschooler who is heading to college and you want to level up and be prepared for algebra and then algebra 2 and then or do you live in a community or a school district where you plan to go back to school, and do we have to make sure that whatever we do conforms? So we figure out the landscape, and then we meet the student and figure out, what is her relationship to math? What's her experience been? What does she know so far? And then we build that curriculum to her to then scaffold and level her up. So it's a very personalized curriculum. Every student's curriculum is slightly different. Now, we do have standards internally that we adhere to, and we're becoming an accredited educational institution, so you have to have those standards. But our standards are really a framework for ensuring that each kid gets that specialized, personalized education geared to them.
Interesting. So you're actually kind of custom building these plans for each student that comes on board with you?
Yep. Every student has their own curriculum.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool. Very cool. So how does that work from a mechanic standpoint then? If I'm a parent and I decide we've got the winter break coming up, maybe that's the breaking point, or next year, right? I decide, hey, or my wife and I decide, of course, hey, we're going to try this. How does that work in terms of working with Cicero to build out that plan and execute it as well?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is a conversation, figuring out where you are. I wish it was as neat, Brett, as you just laid it out, but it never is, right? We have a lot of families coming in, 4 weeks into school, and they're like, this isn't working, So we figure out where the student is and then where they want to get to at the end of the year. We have, an idea of what good looks like, and we usually are ahead, right? So if if it was sort of May, June, you were thinking, hey, in September, we want to go with Cicero for, math and English language arts, we would meet your son or daughter, we'd meet you, we'd figure out, what your goals are as a family, where the student is, and then we would build a course for the following year that would probably take them through 9th grade and probably up to 10th grade level. Most of our students, when they graduate, in 12th grade, are like 2-3 years ahead. They're doing college level work at that point.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's funny. I guess that makes sense from a marketing standpoint, and we'll get into the influencer side here. From a campaign, then maybe that was September, like you said, 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in, and you get a lot of the parents looking for something else, right? That's the moment where it's good to be in front of them on social media. Is that fair? Yeah. Can you give us a little more information on who you're working with today from an influencer standpoint in terms of where do they what do they do in their lives? As we were talking, mom influencers, or are they homeschool parents? And then how are you working with them currently?
Yeah, sort of fit into three categories. So we have a couple of influencers we work with who are world schoolers. So they are traveling all the time. They're like digital nomads, but they have kids, and so they're traveling for education, and the kids are moving all the time. And our model is beautifully. I am a world schooler. We live on a boat.
I was going to say you would on the boat would be in.
I speak that language.
Yeah, right, right, gotcha.
Exactly. So we have a couple of influencers that we work with who are world schoolers, and they have audiences of people who are either are world schoolers or aspire to be world schoolers. And then we have a couple of influencers we work with who are homeschoolers. So they're in one location back home, but they know everything there is to know about the landscape of homeschooling, from, legal restrictions to curriculum to ways of learning, and supporting moms and dads in that journey. And we work with a lot of homeschooling families, and we talk to that audience a lot. And then sort of the third group that we talk to are, in terms of customers, are people who are in traditional school, but it's not working for them. And so some influencers that we work with who speak to that audience are mommy bloggers, right? So they're interested in parenting issues. Education is a huge issue right now. Homeschooling is growing 51%. Public enrollment's dropping almost 5%. There was a big Washington Post study on this. So great parenting bloggers are sort of focused on that issue and talking about it, and we play really well in that area.
Yeah, interesting. And are these longer term relationships then, or there's the potential for that with these
Absolutely
influencers? If you find they've got the audience that is lined up with the potential Cicero clientele?
Yep. Yeah, we have an influencer right now who it's working really well. She has a daughter, and that daughter's doing some courses with us, and we're doing a little short movie about that experience.
That's great. So what are the, I guess, the core issues? Well, I don't want to keep you on all day here, but from the school, obviously the public, even the private school, they kind of, they've got constraints, shall we say, right? So they can't necessarily do the one-on-one. So what kind of, what do you see now that is driving this? Let me phrase it that way, this trend into the homeschool. Is it the parent who says, gee, I would like to see a little more, I'd like to see my child challenged a bit more? Or is it maybe reactive? We're falling behind, but we shouldn't be. So now we're going to look at this route, I guess. What do you see in terms of the trends, and then also the triggers when people come in and call you up and say, hey, Paul, tell me about Cicero?
It sort of falls into two camps. So there's the people who are leaving traditional school, and there are a lot of triggers for that. We have kids who were disrupted by the pandemic and just never got their mojo back. We have kids who are neurodiverse, and a classroom doesn't work for them because in a classroom, the teacher's teaching to the mean, and they're not the mean. They're not an average kid. Bullying, failing schools, all politics, right? There's a whole lot of sort of triggers that are driving people away from school, and we're an amazing, option for them. And another trigger is lifestyle, right? So we live in an age of remote everything and personalization of everything. So there's a lot of parents who are like, wait, I don't want to live, in Minnesota or Florida, wherever I've been living. I want to travel. I want to live in Bali, Vietnam. I want to go. And we enable that. The other group are people who are in traditional school, but it's not working for them, and they don't want to make a radical change. So they want supplement to that school. And usually it's because the school's just not capable of addressing their needs. Their kids want to kind of rocket ahead, and they want to support them. And up until now, their options were tutoring. Okay, we'll hire a tutor, get a college kid, support, do some homework, support. We offer something different. We offer an actual course with a teacher designed to that. So it's a sort of a leveling up of that kind of support that parents are looking for.
Yeah, very cool. And then are these lessons, I assume they're delivered, they're meeting via Zoom? Is that platform? Yeah, okay.
Yep. Our students are all over the world, all time zones, and so are our teachers. So it's a global customer base, global supply base, and we do the matching.
Yeah, excellent. Sounds good. Cool. We got another brand product, Koala Go. They're kind of a Zoom competitor for teaching. I'll send you the link so you can take a look at that one.
Oh, great.
As well. That might be an interesting one for the tutors. Cool. So I'll let you go on this one, Paul. We'll get I'll work with you. We'll get the collab posted so that, as you said, it's very focused what we're looking for in terms of influencers here, but it makes perfect sense in terms of homeschooling and parenting. But can you just kind of talk to that again in terms of the types of influencers that you would like to reach out to you? And then also, just as importantly, how can they reach out to you and learn more about Cicero Learning?
Well, I think the best fit for us is somebody who's passionate about learning and their kids. They're really invested in kids' development. They think about it. This is like what their brand is about. And we solve a very specific problem, and we do it in a very unique way. So I think the best influencers for us are ones who are like, oh my God, this is amazing. They have that kind of reaction. And then we can work with them in myriad different ways. How to reach me? I mean, CiceroLearning.com, via Afluencer. I'm gregarious and always looking to connect people.
Excellent. Well, appreciate that. We'll get your links below the podcast here when we get it out, so that everyone can just click and connect with Paul and give you a call. Paul, thanks for the rundown. It's very interesting. From the studies on the one-on-one learning to the Cicero solution, really interesting. Very cool how you were able to turn your lifestyle. One, I admire you to keep it going. A lot of us travel before kids, and then we kind of shut it down. You have to go on the whole time. So that is awesome. And then being able to turn a company into that is really great. So thanks again, Paul. Really appreciate you joining us and talking about Cicero.
Thanks a lot, Brett. Thanks for having me.